Are you a woman standing at a crossroads, eager for change? It's time to connect with your authentic and empowered self at Boss Leap. Join Dr. Sylvia Morris and Dr. Angela Walker in this empowering community where real-life stories of courageous and talented women inspire and motivate. Engage in honest conversations that foster well-being, drawing from our own journeys. Let us guide you toward profound growth and transformation in both your personal and professional life. Here are your hosts, Dr. Sylvia Morris and Dr. Angela Walker.
Welcome to Boss Leap. My name is Dr. Sylvia Morris, and I'm here with my co-host, Dr. Angela Walker. Today, we are having a wonderful conversation with Sade Brown. And before we get into our conversation, Angela, what do you get to do as opposed to have to do?
So I love this concept, which we've been talking about recently, and we thought about during our conversation with Sade. And it's been all over social media, this thought process of what you reframing things can sometimes change your perspective, right? So getting or having to do something means, for me, I translate it as a burden or an extra task that I may not have time or have to make extra time for, versus get to is a privilege for me, maybe a blessing or something that perhaps I'm taking for granted that someone else doesn't get to do.
Ooh, that is powerful. Yes. Forces us
for
to
me,
move back into gratitude. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. So for me, the real part of getting to do something is getting to help my mom as she is an older person in our society who is still emotionally intelligent. Let me
I
leave
would
that
call
out.
her vibrant. I would call her still engaged.
My mother, who is still vibrant, engaged, completely independent, fiercely independent and competent. But yet she's older and does need help. She's not moving as fast. And so, as you well know, and a lot of my close friends know, we're in a different state, and I would love to have her here and have been trying to do that for the last 11 years. But she has, decided this is, what she wants to do. And I'm getting to help her navigate how to maintain her independence. And I get to do that. And I know that a lot of people in this world don't get to do that, whether it's because of a loss of a parent or maybe it's a relationship that they don't get to do this. And just by reframing it into getting to has lifted a burden off my shoulders, because I know that this is a privilege and that I'm trying not to take things personally, because I would probably do things differently as a parent of kids than my mom, but she gets to make her own decisions.
Yeah.
And at any rate, those are the things that come to mind for me, is the fact that I get to help in this transition. How about for you, Sylvia?
Yeah. So along the lines of being able to get to do something, our guest today, Sade Brown, her mom has passed. My mom has passed. So you're definitely right in being able to get to help your mom as she moves in this part of her life. But we also know that old Black people are going to be old Black people, and they have definite ideas, Uncle William, if you're listening, about how they want to live their lives and where they want to live their lives.
Right.
So it is always that balance between what they want and what we envision for them.
So when I say get to, it does not discount the frustrations, right?
Exactly.
But that's what friends are for, so I can talk to you. So yes.
They are. But there's so many things that we get to do. And whether we have the privilege of health and mobility, I get to walk. When I went on my quick morning walk this morning. It's certainly part of my mindfulness practice, but
Yes.
also my exercise practice, movement
Mhm.
practice.
Yeah.
And there's some mornings I wake up and I think, it's too hot.
Yeah.
I don't want to walk.
Mhm.
But then we are shifting, and I want to thank DeAndre Jordan. He's an NBA player for posting that on Instagram, talking about I get to do something. And even
Absolutely.
in just saying it, it
Mhm.
elevates the way I'm thinking about it. It infuses some joy and some gratitude in that conversation.
Mhm.
So we get to do this podcast. There is work
Absolutely.
behind it. And last week we had sort of some bumps in the
Yes.
road, but we get to do this podcast.
Yes.
So we are quite grateful and blessed.
Yeah.
And we are thrilled to sit down today with Sade
Yes.
Brown. She is a mass communications powerhouse who has steered executive teams, orchestrated high impact events, and has just added doula to her resume.
Yeah.
We're talking about holding space, whether that's in the boardroom, a birthing room, or the messy middle of a big life transition. So grab your coffee, settle in, and let's hear Sade Brown. Welcome back to Boss Sleep. My name is Dr. Sylvia Morris, and I am here with my co host, Dr. Angela Walker. Today, we have an exciting guest. We have Sade Brown. Sade, welcome to Boss Sleep.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
Oh,
You are
wonderful.
welcome. Welcome. We are going to start at the very beginning. So please share with us where you're from.
I am from Baltimore City in Maryland. I've been here my entire life.
You're
Yeah.
from
Tell me.
Bmore.
Mhm.
Awesome. Okay.
Wow.
Okay.
And so in Baltimore, tell us how your journey began. What was your first job out of school and what was it like, growing up?
So I've been working since I was about 14, 15. I wouldn't say it was my first real job, but I started working in a hair salon. At that time, I thought I wanted to be a cosmetologist. Quickly realized that wasn't for me. But after I graduated college, I started working in retail and I stayed in retail for probably about almost 10 years. I was an inventory supervisor at American Apparel, which I think
Oh, wow.
no
Are
longer
they still
exists.
around? Okay.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. But yeah, I was there for maybe about 4 years. And yeah, retail is quite interesting. You learn a lot about humans. You learn about a
Yes.
lot about yourself. But yeah, that was my first, I would say, real job.
So you've had the two that I hear, and it sounds like they taught you things about life and the human experience and how people maybe respond and how you should get the best out of them, perhaps, especially in that retail environment. I can only imagine. What did because that's not what you do now. What did those experiences teach you about what you didn't want to do?
Thinking on that, I think it really taught me more about what I wanted to do versus what I didn't want to do.
Okay.
Because although it was a stressful environment, because you're working off of people's demands and you're working on trying to sell to people, I realized as much as frustrating as it was in the moment, I really enjoy people and I really enjoy helping people. It's just the way in which I want to help people was different. It just didn't align. So once I left that field, it was just figuring out, okay, I know I like helping people, but how do I want to help people? And where does that take me? So I've been kind of like stumbling along the way throughout especially my 20s. And even now, I'm just sort of really figuring out where I want to be.
And here at Boss Leap, instead of stumbling, we think of them as leaping. You've been leaping to different areas to guide you to where you really want to be.
I'm going to have to start
Absolutely.
using that. Yeah.
One of my really good friends, she talked about going from one lily pad to the next. And that's exactly what you have been doing. You went to the University of Maryland, Baltimore County. Tell us about what you majored in and what you would say to that woman who graduated from UMBC.
So I majored in media and communication studies. And you'll see this, I'll have different plans each part of my life. But at that time, I wanted to go into radio. I wanted to be a radio host.
You do have a
And
good voice. That makes
yeah,
sense.
thank you. And unfortunately, and I don't want to speak negatively, but I had a family member who discouraged me from going into that field. So when I graduated, that's how I landed in retail because it was just so easy to get into until I figured out where I wanted to be. But looking back at that 20, 21-year-old, I would definitely tell her to seek help because I didn't realize at that time that I was neurodivergent, which is also probably why I took so many leaps here and there trying to figure out where I wanted to be. And I also kind of struggled in school. It wasn't so much as the material, but just staying focused was really challenging for me. So I think I would tell her, you're not crazy, seek help and go back to school. Because I think being in school, you really kind of figure out what your passions are. You really learn about yourself. And that was a great thing that I experienced throughout my 4 years throughout my 4 years in college. So going back to school, I think would have helped me sort of figure it out. Even if I changed majors, you kind of test the water and say, oh, this works, this doesn't work. And then probably would have landed where I am now much sooner.
And so if you can think back, to those years and you say, seek help, how do you think that would have looked for you? Where would you have sought it?
Good question, because even today, I'm not sure because it wasn't something that my parents were aware of. It wasn't anyone in my circle that could say, have you thought about this? Should you do this? So I think speaking to a therapist might have been a good starting point and trying to figure out my habits and my routines and my way of thinking and sort of really breaking those things down. I think that would have helped because eventually that's how I found out. And also the help of TikTok. So
really? Okay. Tell us about that.
TikTok. Yeah.
So during the pandemic, a lot of us had a lot of downtime. Originally, I wasn't on TikTok. And then eventually I just said, why not? I hear about it all the time. And although your algorithm is personalized to the things that you seek, it started showing things about ADHD and like, oh, if you do this, or this is my experience, these are my habits, these are my traits. And I kept checking off the boxes like, oh, I do that. I've done this and I've experienced this. And so I started looking into it myself, trying to read, medical articles and because I love to do research on my own. And then I started therapy shortly after and talked to my therapist about it and got tested and realized, I have ADHD.
Wow.
Wow. So how do you see your ADHD or your neurodivergence as a superpower?
I hear that a lot and it's a struggle because it's like a gift and a curse, honestly, because it does, show up in ways where it hinders you. Like I said before, the focus and sometimes the motivation is just not there. But when you are focused, you get so much done. I think it also helps me be really adaptable. I can be in circles of people that are completely opposite of me. They may have lived across seas, have a different language, different economic status. And I find a way to connect to people because I'm always looking for those similarities in people and even in things and processes. I'm always looking at the trends and how do I build a process or how do I build a connection? So I think that's probably my biggest superpower with ADHD.
And I can testify to that. You can be in a room and you bring us all together. So that's so true.
Can you give us an example or a couple of examples? So number one, let me go back and just say, I think what you brought out was so important. And I I personally believe that, as a college student, as a high school student, certainly as we go into our professional lives, it's just nice to have some type of check-in with a mental health professional. I wish that just like, insurance covers, if you have insurance, if you have that luxury, uh, your annual exams, your, annual physical exam, that you would have an annual checkup with the mental health professional. I think that so many young people would be assisted early on, and people that do have, neurodivergence, ADHD, you could identify those things earlier and tend to, help them along the way. That being said, can you give us, for our audience who, may not be aware, a couple of examples of things that have helped you since you did, seek therapy, whether they're techniques or processes or, whatever has helped you along the way?
Absolutely. And of course, it's not one size fits all.
Right.
And then also some of the processes that I have adapted, sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. But definitely having a journal. Many of us have a lot of thoughts. We're always in our heads. So you have to have a way to let it out and not keep it in. So always have a journal. Don't be afraid to make lists. Even if you don't complete them, create a list every day. Just get it out of your head and see it on paper. That truly does help. Fitness is super important. You have to, at least go for a walk if you're not, wanting to be in the gym, or just, maybe that's not in your budget, but be physically active. That really helps with the dopamine and the, getting all the things that we're lacking. And I would say eat healthy. And I feel like these are things that we should just be doing anyway. But when you're on the neurodivergent spectrum, these are things that we really need to help us flourish in life.
Wonderful advice. Thank you so much for sharing.
Absolutely. And certainly you work with lots of different people. Certainly you mentioned you have an international sort of group of people. I'm going to call them some New Yorkers, some Southerners. Can you tell me or share with us how you kind of keep all of those personalities together and on track?
Yes. So back to knowing how to connect with people, finding the common ground. We're far more alike than we are different. And even if it's not me connecting with the folks that are in the room, me trying to find ways in which they can connect. If I know this person has children that are under the age of 10, and this other person who's from a whole nother space and they have kids under 10, that's something they can relate on. So putting them together, they can have those conversations and build off of that. And although they start talking about family, they can start talking about their job, their work experience. Maybe we collaborate on something. So it's always finding those little things, no matter how small they are, to connect to the groups of people and have them connect to each other.
So Sylvia has the luxury of having worked with you, but I have not, and our audience has not. Can you tell us a little bit about what you do?
Absolutely. So I am the assistant director for a Leadership Fellows program at Johns Hopkins University. This is an amazing 2-year educational program for volunteer leadership. We just celebrated our 10-year anniversary, which Sylvia was, I'm glad you could make it. It was so much fun.
Okay.
Yeah. And so I've been working here for about 2 years. So at our actual anniversary, that was my 2-year mark. So
I didn't know that. I thought you'd been there longer than 2 years. Maybe it feels like it. Okay.
It does feel like it. So we have this 2-year program that educates our mostly alum, but also non-alum, do everything at Johns Hopkins University, medicine side, science, applied physics laboratory, arts and sciences. So they get the insider scope of everything that Hopkins has their hands in. And once they finish, we plan to have them on a board or a council that's affiliated with a division.
Okay. So you've supported executive leadership, it sounds like, and at this high level of, board members, what is your key in terms of communicating at such a high level with as you mentioned, a diversity of members?
Yes. And I realized as I was describing that, I really was selling the program and not myself.
Yeah.
But I'm just so used
Okay.
to doing that. But yeah, so communicating, you have to be clear, concise, and authentic.
Mhm.
I think that for many of us, especially women and women of color, Black women in particular, we had to switch and code switch and become this person
Mhm.
that we're not necessarily that we are. And as I've gotten older, especially now in my age, I'm leaning more into who I am. I have a Baltimorean accent. I might say things a little differently. I'm not going to switch that because that's who
Mhm.
I am. So being authentic, people feel that. Even in emails and text messages, they can sense who you are. So I think being who I am, being clear, being concise, and being direct, you get, a lot of respect from people in this field, and you build relationships because they know that who they're getting is who you are. Who you are is what they get.
And I think it's really
Fine.
important to have someone, a true Baltimorean, in the rooms, especially at Hopkins. I think it's important that we draw from the community in which we live and we get so much from, as far as my Hopkins community and Hopkins family. And I would be remiss without mentioning Jill, who has been integral to the Fellows Program. And the Fellows Program for me was just a wonderful opportunity to learn about Hopkins at large. My narrow focus was on the School of Public Health. But when you realize how many other things that Johns Hopkins does and is involved in, it is truly awe-inspiring. But I think the most important thing is the people. We're talking about not only staff and faculty and alumni. So, Sade, thank you so much for your service and representing the city of Baltimore so well in your capacity at Hopkins.
Thank you. Honestly, I've never really thought about it like that, but I am very honored to be in this role and to be able to represent, my city, especially because we get a bad rep. And
Mhm.
I think, I've lived in many parts of the city. I breathe, bleed Baltimore City. And so to be able to work at a university that's so also very grounded in the city and historical, that it just kind of comes full circle. So I really enjoy what I do. It's such a pleasure.
So most people, when they think of Baltimore, and most people, not me, you get the Wire, you get the Orioles, you get crab cake. Tell us something about Baltimore that really resonates with you and something that you wish other people knew about.
Baltimore is so creative, so
Mhm.
creative. There are so
Tupac,
many.
right?
Yes, Jada Pinkett Smith.
Yep.
Yes.
Tony Braxton.
Mhm.
There's so many. Cisco, Drew Hill.
Oh, that's right.
There are so
Awesome.
many talented people, and not just in music, but just arts. There are so many people who, and I think this is creative, people who create programs for the people of Baltimore,
Yes.
to think outside of the box and wanting to help people. I've befriended so many folks who have taken the initiative to help other creatives or to help the unhoused, or that is it
Mhm.
takes a lot to think that and then see it through. So I think a lot of people don't realize how much talent there is in Baltimore. I'm amazed. I'll meet
Wow.
folks and I'm like, you need to be in LA or Atlanta or New York. Like there's so
Mhm.
many amazing people here.
So a lot of talent, a lot of heart is what I'm hearing. And
Yes.
I have to go back to me hearing about you from Sylvia, and she definitely said she just has a talent for bringing people together and planning events. So can you tell us a little bit about your go-to process for planning events, and not only logistically making them smooth, but even like emotionally resonant to the people that you're actually serving?
Yeah, so my method is always using the basics of the who, the what, the when, the why, and the how. I
Mhm.
think when you start with that, you lay the foundation of the event itself. And then when it comes to the emotional aspect, really leaning into the why. Why are we here? Why does this matter? And this is what we're kind of working to build to make this event special and important. So looking at the group of fellows that we work with, why is this specific meeting important to them? And if it's not, how do we make it important to them? How do we
Mhm.
find the
Okay.
information that resonates with them? Whether it's work, professional, or personal, because I've had a lot of experience with fellows who they think that they're coming here to do homework, and then they'll walk away and say, wow, you made me think about when I was in undergrad and I see these students and that was me. And so it hits them on all notes. And I think that's the foundation of a really good event. And even if it's not this program, just events in general, you want the audience, the group that you're, showcasing to feel
Mhm.
connected to the event itself.
Got it.
And you work with lots of different age groups. What do kind of people in my age bracket and Angela, Dr. Walker's age bracket get wrong about women in their 30s?
I would say
Or maybe not get wrong, but how can we be better and more
misunderstanding.
collaborative?
Yeah.
To help. Mhm.
And I think what I hear and what I experience the most is that for people in my age group, we don't understand. Or, we don't understand the struggles and, financial
Mhm.
responsibility. And many of us in my age group, we don't have kids yet. We don't have a family. And not to say folks in other age groups don't experience that as well, but I've always felt that, oh, you don't know, you don't understand because you're X, Y, and Z age and you're this, you're that. And we understand a lot more than I think people realize. I think that we're just really working to create the life that we feel like those before us deserve. So,
Mm.
working
I
so
like that.
hard and
Mhm.
being so committed and loyal to a company or a business for 20, 30, 40 years, that's not necessarily what we want. We want to be
Mhm.
able to live life and, enjoy life and not
Mhm.
survive life.
Mhm. I love that idea, and I do feel that from your generation, and respect it.
Mhm.
Thank you for sharing that. Sylvia, I'm gonna jump in. Can I?
Sure.
Because I do
Yeah.
have, a question that's near and dear to my heart because I understand that you have recently, received your doula certification. Is that correct?
Well, yes and no.
Okay,
So
tell us.
I
I'm just curious how you got inspired. Yeah, tell us.
absolutely, yeah. So I just finished my training, but I am in the
Okay.
midst of the certification. So
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
there are various steps that I have to take in order to complete the certification,
Sure.
including partaking in births, at least 3 births.
Okay.
But my younger self, when I was maybe like 10 or 11, I
Mhm.
always, for some reason, was really infatuated by pregnancy, seeing women pregnant, babies, and just going through sex education in school, which I don't think they have anymore. But having sex education exposed me
Mhm.
to that process.
Mm.
I
Yes.
remember there was a birthing video where the mother was giving birth and, kids are going to be kids and laugh or, get squeamish. And I was just glued to the TV. I really found something that excited me. And seeing the mother, the birthing parent, be supported and seeing the obstetress, I always struggle to say that word, to
You're good. You're good.
seeing, this person lead the charge and having them facilitate the room. It's something that I aspired to do. But, as you go throughout teenage years and college, you kind of just fumble around a little bit.
Mhm.
And it wasn't, again, coming back to the pandemic, I realized I'm not happy where I am.
Mhm.
I need to do something that, really gets me excited every day. So I
Mhm.
started looking into doula programs, started looking into midwifery, and that's where I felt like I was going to be aligned again. And
Mhm.
this is when I was working at University of Maryland School of Medicine. I eventually transitioned from there and landed at Johns Hopkins University, which in this role, I really do enjoy it. But that ache of, being a doula, being in those rooms was still there. So I
Sure.
finally took the leap and took the training about a month ago. So it's still
Yeah.
pretty brand new for me.
Okay. Okay. Wonderful. Yeah. So the certification will come, the experiences will come because it's the desire that's in your heart, is what I heard. And I know Sylvia has told me. What has anything surprised you so far about the process, whether it's personally or professionally?
Yes. I would say personally, it was surprising, especially the group that I did the training with, how the different backgrounds of people and purposes of why they were there, and then
Mm.
looking at my own purpose of being there and realizing how many people are like me and wanting to just help, and then so that just kind of blew me away.
Mm.
I don't know why that blew me away, but it did. And then on a professional level, just the amount of networking that has to happen before you can
Mm.
really build a brand and a clientele. Because there's a lot of birthing people, but how do they know who you are? And how do you build that trust? So it's really starting from the ground up that it's like, oh, this is more than I
Mhm.
expected.
Mhm. Got it. Got it.
And has your doula training changed how you see yourself as a woman?
It has, but in the way of making me more confident. I realized that I can be very assertive, and I think that's needed in those situations.
Mhm.
And really leaning into my voice of advocacy, because that's very important as a doula. That's something that I've always wanted to do. And there have been situations where I have, but now going into this field, realizing this is the role I'm going to play. And I need to lean into it as much as possible instead of feeling, oh, should I? Should I say something? Should I
Mhm.
be the one? And now I really feel like I can be my full self in that aspect.
Very cool. Well, you are clearly in a season of evolution here, and that is kind of what Boss Leap is all about. It's just, taking those leaps and hopefully following your heart and dreams and your calling. So I'm sure all the things will fall in place as you continue to move forward. Um, in that vein, what do you feel like is pulling you forward right now? What's motivating you? What is keeping you fired up? What do you use
I would
as your
say age.
power?
Age.
That's real.
You're young.
I'm like, I don't have much time. Or not that I don't have much time, but I don't want to waste time. And so my mom unfortunately passed about 8 years ago. And ever since her passing, I just realized you
Mm.
can't waste time. You have to, this is something you're interested in. Even if it doesn't last long, just try it. Just do it.
Right.
So, I am getting older and I don't want to live a life full of regrets. I don't want to be on, in the last stages of my life looking back and saying, why didn't I do what I wanted to do? So
Absolutely.
it's really, really pushing me. And as scary as it is, I love it because I need that excitement. I need that push. ADHD. I need that push to keep me going. So definitely that. Yeah.
Well, I'm much older than you, but I can absolutely relate to what you're to what you're saying. Time and age, yes.
Definitely have time though. What would you say to someone who is kind of on a journey and they realize, you know what, I'm not exactly where I would like to be at this moment? What would you say to sort of encourage them to hopefully get unstuck?
Try new things. Try new things.
Mm.
It doesn't have to be a goal or a passion. It could be, maybe you want to throw darts. You've never thrown darts before. Or maybe you want to play pool and you have a friend who can teach you how to play pool. I think creating that spark again of wanting to try and seek other things really helped me get unstuck. Doing things that may have scared me or I just never thought I would do. Maybe go rock climbing. Once you finish that thing that was so new, you build the excitement and you say, well, what else can I do? What else should I try? And it kind of just keeps building. So definitely try new things.
Love that. And that's just part of continually growing and trying to identify those things. Beautiful. Thank you.
So whether you are kind of in the boardroom or in the birthing room, certainly you hold space for lots of people. So how do you refill your own cup?
I struggle with that every day, but I think the things that really help keep me grounded is breathing, just starting with the basics, just focusing on my breath. There have been moments where there's just so much coming in my direction that I will sit still at my desk or I will take a walk, sit in my car and just breathe, just connect to the breath. And following that, I practice yoga. So I try to keep a regular routine of yoga, which is, it helps the body and the mind, and also connecting that breath again. And just exercising. Exercising has done a lot for my mental stability, my emotional well-being. All the things that build up, the stresses of work, you release it in working out and exercising.
Do you have a favorite exercise or movement practice you'd like to share?
Yeah, I have two. So I'm really into weightlifting. And
Oh, wow.
I love squats.
Okay.
And so I always imagine myself pushing the weight away from my shoulders, all the, the weight of the world, push it away. And then yoga, I really enjoy child's pose. So
Me
that's,
too.
yeah,
My
like
favorite pose.
yes. So I have like lower back issues. So it's really good for stretching out your lower back. And it's also really restful and peaceful. And it's exactly what it says. Child's pose, you kind of feel like, oh, I can just connect back to myself in that pose. So, yeah.
So Sade, you're in your 30s. I'm just curious. From what I envision, women your age, definitely aerobic, weights. When did you get introduced to yoga and just mindful type of behavior? Because I envision it more as like, as you get more enlightened and you get older, but I do find that it has been introduced a lot to the younger generations, which I'm happy to hear. But what was it like for you? How were you introduced?
So just fumbling around, my friends noticed that I would just do all these stretches. I didn't know it was yoga. Like I was really doing yoga poses and I would just stretch and like move around because at the time I was a runner. I was running like 5Ks. I did a half marathon. So stretching is essential. And my mother passed away shortly after that. And that was my grieving technique. That was my way of grieving the loss of my mother. A friend of mine who noticed that I used to move a lot said, you should do like yoga training. You should look into this. So I did. I'm a certified yogi. And
okay, you just left that out of the whole equation here.
And,
wow.
in your bio.
Yes.
So what was a grieving process led into sort of a career field because I still teach, but part-time.
Yeah.
And it's been amazing how far I've gotten without having my mother because of yoga.
So Kundalini or Vinyasa, what type of yoga, may I ask?
Primary Vinyasa.
Okay. And tell us what that means.
Yeah. So Vinyasa is led by the breath. So you're doing consistent poses of flow, following the breath. So every movement is a breath. So either in or out. It's a little it could be a little fast paced, but it's definitely beginner friendly, all levels friendly. Yeah.
Hmm. So I'm just in my head, always dreaming of things. Can you envision incorporating some of this in your doula practice? From experience as being a person that has given birth, but also as an OB, I can see how that would be really valuable to patients in terms of just alleviating stress, alleviating pain, and guiding through the whole pregnancy. That I think you have an added benefit. So don't leave that out of your equation when people
Mhm.
are
I'm not.
asking. Yeah.
Yeah. I planned on going. I would like to be certified for prenatal yoga. So just
Yeah.
to
Sure.
be,
Yes.
be more knowledgeable of how to move pregnant bodies.
Sure.
And but even before that, just the breath work, you
Mhm.
know, being aware of your body, I could still implement those things throughout my doula
Absolutely.
practice. But yeah, the goal is to build all these things together.
Yeah. Wonderful.
Definitely. But that also differentiates you as a doula as well.
Mhm.
And I
Mhm.
think that that's important. So fantastic. Absolutely fantastic.
So I do have another area that I'm curious about because you're certainly in love with Baltimore, and that is where you're born and raised and work. Do you envision anywhere else that you'd like to move, live, visit?
Yes, I am planning my escape. I love Baltimore. I love Baltimore, but I am a traveler. I love to experience the world.
Mhm.
And I've always seen myself somewhere in Africa. I'm not sure exactly where, or somewhere in the Caribbean. I just really want to be in spaces where, just to say it bluntly, I want to see myself in every
Mhm.
part of the place I'm in.
Mhm.
And also really want to learn more about other cultures and other languages. So but in the future, most certainly will want to move. Yeah.
Mhm. Okay.
Definitely. When you go to Accra, I'm a huge fan of Ghana. We definitely will talk.
Okay.
I think you'd like it.
Thank
Absolutely.
you.
Oh,
Yeah.
you are welcome. You are welcome. Well, Sade Brown, we at Boss Week, we thank you for sharing so many pearls with us today. And we welcome you back as your doula and your prenatal yoga journey continues.
Thank you
Yes.
so much for having me.
Thank you. Appreciate you sharing and being so open to all of your experiences. Definitely things that our audience can relate to. So we are so grateful to have you. And until we meet again, may you be well.
That was a fantastic conversation with Sade Brown.
Yes, that was so wonderful. She had, again, so many pearls of wisdom that we can share. And I don't know about you, Sylvia, but one that landed for me, and I certainly will not be quoting this because I would completely mess it up. But in terms of her generation and developing and creating the lives that they think that they deserve, it was that she wants to create the life that our ancestors deserved. And I love
Our
that concept.
ancestors' wildest dream. Absolutely.
Yeah, I love that concept of not apologizing for trying to making these changes, maybe moving from job to job, which is not necessarily the traditional route that certainly our parents did, or even, when we were coming out of school, creating, lives of joy, but in the vein of I'm doing this because number one, I recognize that my ancestors worked very hard for me to get to this point, and it's something that they would have deserved to have. I like that
Literally
idea.
died. Yeah.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah, I like that idea. Something that came up, in the conversation, I don't know that I'd say it's a pearl, but it was just interesting and maybe something for us to talk about, in the future was not apologizing and maybe not doing so much code switching. And she's a, native,
Baltimorean.
Baltimorean. I was gonna say, I didn't mess that up. Baltimorean and her, accent, the way she says things, and code switching is not anything that's unfamiliar as a Black woman or a Black person. And it's just natural. You just grew up, in one situation, talking one way and the other. Not everybody, but a lot of us know and have done that. And it's just part of who we are. And so there's an interesting conversation about that's going on about whether we need to do that and whether or to what extent you need to do that. So I'm not here to debate it. Just I thought it was interesting, and particularly because she had a mindset around it, and I love that. So how about you?
Yeah, but I think what she really led with was being authentic.
True.
So
Yes.
however it is that you are going to move, you're going to move with authenticity. I love the fact that she is from the city of Baltimore and that she works for Johns Hopkins. I think it's really important that people from the city of Baltimore are integrated within the university system. And place helps to kind of determine who we are, and we get to shape the places in which we work. The other thing that I wanted to make sure that we brought up is that Jill Paulson, who was the creator of the Fellows Program, and the Fellows Program at Johns Hopkins helps to develop volunteer leaders. And I wouldn't have had the exposure to Hopkins if it wasn't for Jill. I'm on an advisory board as well because of Jill. So I just wanted to make sure that we gave her her flowers.
Get your shout out, girl. Very good. And with that, I think that's a wrap with Sade Brown. Certainly, if her story spoke to you, hit follow, share it with your people, subscribe on YouTube, and leave us a review. And until next time, keep leaping and trust the magic behind the scenes. Again, until we meet again, may you be well.
May you be well.
That's a wrap on another episode of Boss Leap. May this conversation enlighten your path toward personal growth and professional empowerment. For more thought-provoking and eye-opening discussions like this one, head to our website at bossleappodcast.com. Always remember to celebrate your wins and trust yourself. A positive mindset can push you out of your comfort zone and into far greater heights. Until next time, may you be well.
Before we go, there's one more thing the lawyers have asked us to include. It's the legal language, and you know how doctors love lawyers. This podcast is presented only for educational and entertainment purposes. Although we are doctors, on this show, we are just your friends. This podcast is not intended as a substitute for the advice of your physician, professional coach, psychotherapist, or other qualified professionals. Understood? Awesome. We'll see you in the next episode.